Hello everyone, today I'd like to go over how to implement Google's Admob within Xamarin.Forms. Now in order to do this, we will need to implement a custom renderer. Now if you're new to Xamarin.Forms, it can seem like a daunting task, but don't worry, if you just follow along with this video, it should be very straightforward and simple, and you'll be able to have ads rolling in your apps within no time, and hopefully give you some confidence to implement more custom renderers down the line. If you're not sure what a custom renderer is, it's essentially a control that we define here in the shared project, which implements native code that we define here in the Android project and the iOS project. The reasoning behind this is because each platform handles how they display ads differently, so you need different code for each Admob view. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we want to do is create the base control within our shared project here. Again, this is just a standard app project within Visual Studio. I did not make any modifications to it yet. Okay, so here we go. We're not going to be using any of this, and for the sake of time, I already have the code that we need for this base view. We need to be using Xamarin.Forms because our Admob view inherits from view. And then we go ahead and we create this add unit ID here. So add unit ID is something that we get from Google Admob. It's going to be used to serve the advertisements within your app. Very important to have. And then we went ahead and created a bindable property on it. Feel free to pause the video here and get caught up and grab this code. Okay, so now that we have our base view, the next thing we need to do is create our first custom renderer. So if you go down to your Android project, we will be needing a new NuGet package for this. So go ahead and add a package. The one we're looking for is Xamarin.Firebase.ads right here. So go ahead and add that. Go ahead and accept all these. So there we go. So now it's been successfully added. So with that, we can create our renderer. So go ahead and add a new file here. I'm going to call it Admob View Renderer. Again, for the sake of time, I have all of the code already here. So some things to take note of are this assembly thing. So this line is used for all renderers, so it basically lets your shared project know where to look for the implementation of the Admob view. So, and also take note of the namespace. We're no longer in the Xamarin.Forms namespace. We're in the Admob.view namespace, or Admob.droid namespace. So there you have it. So feel free to pause the video and get all this code here. So moving on, we have the Android version finished. Now we're going to go to the iOS and create our renderer here. Again, we will need a new NuGet package. This time, it's a little bit different though. So for this one, you want to use Xamarin.Google.ios.mobileads. Mobile ads. There, this one. Now there is a Xamarin.Firebase.ios ads, I believe. However, when I was attempting to use that version, it was giving me native linking failures when I was go to build my iOS version of the app, and I found that this package just works right out of the box. So I would recommend this one to anyone looking to implement Admob. And again, just go ahead and accept this. It's been added, and just like before, we're going to create a new file. And again, name this Admob View Renderer as well. Since there's different projects, it's not going to throw any conflicts. They have the same name, and they should be the same name. And again, for the sake of time, I have all the code that we need right here. So you'll notice that this is also a little bit different. Again, we have the same assembly line as well as a different namespace. And this is all referencing iOS code, similarly to how the Android version was referencing Android native code. So yeah, so feel free to pause the video and grab all of this as well. So now that we have our renderers in place, there's one more thing that we have to do in each of our Android and iOS projects. So in Android, we need to go into main activity.cs, and above Xamarin.Forms init, we want to call this. So what this is going to do is essentially initialize your ads. So the criteria here, this string is my app ID that is given to you by Admob. So make sure you're using the one here that has the tilde rather than the slash. The slash means it's an add unit ID, whereas this is an app ID. So you definitely want to keep the two separate, because if you mix and match them, this will not work. Likewise, we'll want to go down into our iOS project, and within app delegate, we want to go here, right above Xamarin.Forms init. Go ahead and call this. Notice it's a little different here. Again, this is the app ID, not the add unit ID. Make sure that you're using the number with the tilde here in between. So now that's all that's left for us is to go to the main page and create our new Admob view. So let's go ahead and add content, new Admob view. And all we need in here is the add unit ID. In my case, I'm going to use a test ID from Google. Please note that the add unit ID is going to be different for iOS and Android, so you'll have to implement a means of switching between which add unit ID you're using based on if it's an iOS or Android device. But so let's go ahead and start it up from here. You'll notice that it should break here. So the reason it's breaking is because we just have our Admob view out here in the shared project, not in any folder of any sort. So all we need to do is just add a new folder. Since it's a view, I'm going to create a folder called views and go ahead and add it to that. Now if I go ahead and try to build it again, you should see that it just builds as you would expect, and it will work just fine. So I'll go ahead and pull the emulator up right here. And there you have it. You got your test that right there on your Android emulator. I also implemented it on the iOS version. Again, this is using a different add unit ID. You'll have to get it from Admob. But there you go. Now you can implement your Admob view on both iOS and Android devices.